Hey everybody, I'm Chad Wesley Smith, the founder of Juggernaut Train Systems and creator of the Juggernaut AI app, as well as one of the strongest powerlifters ever and coach to many of the strongest powerlifters of all time. Yeah, how I usually describe myself has become more complex for me, I guess, 14 years into Juggernaut than, in 2009 when I started this, I would have said I'm a strength coach. Now I don't know that that's always the most accurate description, though it is probably still the one that I use the most. I know my friends, like, if we were playing golf one day and the guy asked what I did, and I said I develop artificial intelligence mobile strength training applications, and my friends got a kick out of that. So, I would say that I think still I'm a coach and an educator, probably the best. A coach and an educator about strength training, probably the best description. Yeah, so when I look back at the proudest moments of my powerlifting career, which they do seem increasingly far far away. Um, yeah, I think probably to two main moments: breaking the then American record in the squat, which was 905, so 411 kilos in the 140 kilo class, which was back in 2011. So when I did that, it was really just me and a lifter named Robert Wilkerson who were squatting over 900 pounds. Now, much more common occurrence, but, hopefully helped make that seem more possible for people. And I get to break the American record was held by a lifter named John Cole previous to that, and he had that since like the mid 70s. So pretty cool to get to do that. Say that, and then either coming back, I had herniated discs that I dealt with in 2013 into 2014. So coming back, my first meet after that, I made a big PR. I squatted 937, totaled 1,020 kilos, 2248. So it was my first time over 1,000 kilos in the total. Felt like a real milestone coming back from that. From that injury. I had times where I felt like I couldn't, get out of bed for days at a time. So to put 900 plus pounds on my back was something I'm definitely proud of. Yeah. So, I first became aware of the herniated discs in summer 2013 when I was getting ready for a meet. And I say became aware of them because they probably already existed, and I think a lot of people who have spent their better part of their lives putting as much weight on their back and in their hands as they can, if they were to get imaging, would probably find out that there's some stuff going on there, and that's kind of a separate topic of maybe the dangers or perils of getting imaging done, because then you're into pain psychology and all this stuff, but it hurt a lot. So, initially coming back from that, after about 2 weeks of just kind of spent laying there not doing anything, and that actually made it feel a lot worse. I started back doing very frequent, like 3 times a day, very, very low intensity, like breathing drills and bodyweight squats. So I'd do that, my breathing drills and then 50 bodyweight squats morning, noon, and night. And then that went on for maybe 2 weeks. And then I was moving a little bit better. So then I went to the breathing drills and goblet squats with the kettlebell twice a day. And then that went on for maybe 3 or 4 weeks like that, of increasing the weight of the kettlebell. And then I was like, all right, I'm ready to squat again. So now we're probably total about 8 weeks after the initial realization of the injury. And I started back, mind you, at this time I'd squatted 900, 905. I started back squatting 185 and front squatting 135, and I just alternate days of that. So I was doing that 6 days a week, 3 days back, 3 days front. And then the next week, that was like 5 by 10 each day. And then the next week I went from 185 to 205 and then 225. And as I got, increasing back the intensity, maybe up to like 315 in the back squat, then I switched from 6 day a week squatting to 5 day. And then once I got up to 405, then I went from 5 day to 4 days. And it actually ended up being a pretty big change to my entire training philosophy, because before that I'd mostly squatted one time a week or one time every like 8 to 10 days. And to switch to squatting 4 times a week, and by the end of this rehab process, about 6 months in total, to where I felt like I'm back doing normal training now, or capable of doing normal training, I realized like, I'm squatting 3 times a week, every session over 450 or 500 pounds. Like, this seems to be going pretty well. So I came back with this, I don't know if it was a new capacity, a work capacity for training, or a new realization of the capacity that I had. But after that point, I really shifted to higher frequency and higher volume training, really, and put about 300 pounds on my total. So as well as kind of reshaping my squat technique, learning how to breathe and brace a lot better. So you could say, I suppose it was a blessing in disguise. Yeah, so fortunate in doing this job to have contacts with a lot of great physical therapists and chiropractors and that kind of stuff. So worked mostly at the time with two. Dr. Quinn Hennock was a doctor of physical therapy, and a chiropractor named Jason Reynolds, who worked for his original office and practice was in our first location for Juggernaut, and then he went on to work for the Olympic Training Center in both Chula Vista and in Salt Lake City with like USA bobsled and skiing and that kind of stuff. So I had some pretty good folks around me. Plus, I didn't have insurance, so the options. I didn't have insurance or any money, so options on surgery or anything like that were kind of out of the question. So it was like, well, I have to rehab it and get it better. So like on the day-to-day was more self-directed, kind of just in an outline of a structure that we all made together. So first getting into powerlifting was, I kind of always did have a support structure for powerlifting in that sense. First getting into lifting was like start of high school. We didn't have a strength coach or anything like that. So I was scouring the early 2000s internet for information about how to train for football and for track and field through the shot put. And I was doing, it turned out that I was doing a lot of good stuff. I was also just doing a lot of stuff, as 15, 16, 17-year-olds can get away with. But I was training 2 to 3 hours, 5 or 6 days a week. And that was a mix of like, sprinting and plyometrics and lifting, and I'll take a little bit from this weightlifting program and a little bit from this bodybuilding program and a little bit from this program, and kind of put them all on top of each other. But I got to learn a lot about training through that process, and kind of worked out well, probably because I think everyone, regardless of age, probably gravitates towards what they're good at, and that's probably more true even for younger people and younger athletes. But what I was good at was sprinting and jumping and squats and cleans and the stuff that probably the most useful for the sports I was doing. So as I went through college, I threw the shot put in college. So a couple of years having a strength coach in college, and then the last couple of years going back to controlling my own training. So when I went to transition to powerlifting, I continued throwing the shot put for 1 year as a post-collegiate, but had started Juggernaut at that time. Was sponsored by Elite FTS as a shot putter, and so I had a lot of people around me, that I could probably get advice from on the powerlifting side, even when I switched to competing in powerlifting, I was doing the program, the original Juggernaut Method, which was a program I'd written for, people at our gym. And I was like, I want to make this into a ebook. So I better put my money where my mouth is on this and do it myself. So I used that exactly for my first meet, which was a very different training than like any of the other elite FTS guys were doing. They probably wouldn't have advised that. And even when they saw me do it, they're like, "And you're doing a lot of reps. This is weird. Why aren't you just doing sets of one all the time?" But it worked out pretty well. So I ended up probably taking more influence from the sport coaches, like track coaches and stuff that I was around in that world, than any powerlifting coaching. As a coach, yes, I think especially track and field, there's a lot to be learned. That training is just they got to push it farther than powerlifting or anything does. My understanding of coaching has come through a combination of certainly my own experiences, which are more so in sport performance coaching, track and field, football, strength and conditioning. But I think for coaches, it's important to, you can become myopic as a powerlifting coach, and just powerlifting coaches talk to other powerlifting coaches, and then you only get powerlifting coach solutions. But if you can branch out into weightlifting, into strongman, which I was a professional strongman as well, into track and field and sports strength and conditioning, and kind of see, and as well as physical therapy, and get see the principles of what's driving these different things. That's just going to make someone a better and more well-rounded coach. Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm at Chad Wesley Smith, at Juggernaut Training, both of those places. And, our goal for a long time with Juggernaut has really just been to provide coaches and athletes with the resources they need to improve. Whether that's educational content, whether that's, it's mostly educational content, but programs and seminars and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, definitely. And I think that introspective process of training is very important. If people they keep doing the same thing that they've been doing for the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is, without really understanding or without really looking like, is this actually working? I see so many people in powerlifting, and it's always just like, well, didn't have the day I wanted, on the meet day. And then it was a bad weight cut. It was this, it was that. And it's like, okay, you got one of those and then try the same thing. But then when it happens again, like you got to be taking accountability for like, well, I have to be doing something wrong here. What is this? What is this? So where can I make adjustments? Because I feel like I've seen some lifters who, they didn't have the day I wanted posts for the last 10 years straight, kind of thing. So I think that introspection, is important for anyone, lifting, business, relationships, whatever it is. Yeah, having it's hard to acknowledge your own weaknesses or faults, again, in whether that's lifting, coaching, anything else. So having a coach do that can be definitely a valuable thing for a lot of people. There's probably people who don't seek out coaching for that reason, because they don't want to be told that, whether they understand that that's the reason or not. But yeah, I think that can certainly be a big part of a good coach. Yeah, so Juggernaut AI is something that we started working on in 2018 and then released as the Juggernaut AI app in late 2020, and really with the goal of recreating my programs for people of all levels. So whether someone who is a beginner powerlifter came to me or someone who's trying to break world records would come, it's giving the closest approximation to what I would write for them and making those adjustments along the way. So in the ways that it is like a coach, and probably even superior to personal, individual coaches in some senses, is that it's making constant adjustments to the training based on as objective a feedback as you could have. So whether that's RPE ratings or the readiness questionnaire before the training of how the athlete feels that day, outside of a in-person powerlifting coach, which is pretty rare to have, it would be a rare situation that you have your online powerlifting coach, even a one-on-one coach, and that you're like texting them live updates of like, this is how I feel today. All right, make this adjustment. Well, warm-ups felt like, this warm-up felt okay. Okay, move your top set up, move your top set down. All right, top set felt like this. What do you want me to do for the back downs? If you have that in your one-on-one powerlifting coach, hopefully they're charging you a lot for that, but odds are they're probably not charging you a lot for that, or they're just not doing this, where the Juggernaut AI app is adjusting the training pre-session based on the questionnaire, during the warm-ups for the top set. Then based on what you do for the top set, it's adjusting the back down sets, and from set to set from there, and then session to session, week to week, block to block, so on and so forth. So it's making all of those adjustments because it's got this huge cache of data that it's using for it. We do our best in it to provide resources and kind of different prompts and stuff for the mental side of lifting as well. Whether that's at the end of sessions, it's just asking, what's something you did well today, what's something you could improve on today, going into the session, what's something you want to focus on today, just whether it's little quotes here and there, just to get kind of people thinking about that part of things. But it is certainly tough for a phone app to do the same depth of that a human coach could, though I'm sure it does a better job than a lot of human coaches do as well, because I think a lot of powerlifting coaches, they probably overextend themselves in the number of clients they can take and the energy that they're able to spend with each of them. And there's people out there doing a great job of it, but a lot of people not doing a great job of it. So it's, it certainly does a better job than bad coaches, and probably a better job than a lot of average or even good coaches on the human detail kind of stuff, if people are willing to engage with it that way and seek out the make a couple clicks to a few of these resources. Yeah, there's just so many programs, kind of cookie cutter programs, and I'm part of that problem in the past too of when I wrote the Juggernaut Method, it's fixed. It's these sets and reps, whether you get it, whether I get it, whether our brother or sister or mom, signs up for it, everyone was getting the same thing. And there was a lot of that out there, and then even people delivering that as online coaching, whether they're just getting PDFs emailed to them or essentially a PDF delivered to them in the app form, but everyone's getting the same thing. So I became more and more frustrated by that with time of people not individualizing the training and not understanding why that needed to be individualized. And then with Dr. Mike Israetel, he co-authored the Scientific Principles of Strength Training back in 2015. And with that, we start talking a lot about these volume landmarks, MEV, minimum effective volume, MRV, maximum recoverable volume, being the sort of two most prominent and popular among them. So I'd speak at all these seminars in 15, 16, 17, 2018, and explain to people in it, all right, these are factors that increase your MRV or decrease your MRV, and that should increase your frequency or decrease your frequency. And we'd talk for an hour or 2 hours about this and how it would kind of in a principled way affect their programs or programs for their clients. But so often at the end of those presentations, someone would just still raise their hand, like, so what's my MRV? Like, tell me what it is for me. You know, and so after I got asked that enough times, I was like, all right, principle is great and the theory is great, but I can provide people with a more precise answer. So I just started kind of working on this scale of magnitude of like, all right, well, how much a difference should it make for, volume wise for a male lifter or a female lifter, or, someone who's tall versus short, or heavyweight versus lightweight, or beginner versus advanced. And just kind of started refining that process. Like, all right, should women get, 3 sets more or 4 sets more than men? And if you're, really tall, do you get, 3 sets less or 4 sets less? And how do all these work together? So as I start working on that process to, be able to bring people a precise, more the best estimate, because they're still going to have to actually train and sort it out for themselves. But, rather than just like, here's this arbitrary starting point and we adjust from there, and you might end up, plus or minus 10 sets from that. Maybe we can get you to 2 or 3 sets of understanding right off the bat, and then that just kept being refined more and more as we've had more people use it and just been able to dial it in for people better. Yeah, so the guided warm-up feature has been a big adjustment where, we help people to basically hit their target for the day as well as possible, because every warm-up set that an athlete is doing, or if they're communicating with a regular, an in-person coach, should be informing their work for the day, because, we do the readiness questionnaire, and that's going to help us understand, all right, this is probably the target, but then as you go through the warm-up sets, we try to make it kind of as intuitive as possible. Like if you were texting a one-on-one coach, or kind of looking over at your in-person coach, and like how'd that set feel, how'd that warm-up feel, and you're like, giving the thumbs down. Or if you're texting your coach, you're sending the fire emoji, and they're like, all right, today's the day, let's bump the weight up a little bit. So that's actually the scale that we use, is the fire thumbs up or the poop emoji, to help adjust to the top set. So through the guided warm-up feature, that's how that works. We had just a couple weeks ago released a really big update to our history to give much better in-depth understanding of tonnage and everything through the days and weeks and months of their training, better visualizations and graphing of all of that. Then coming up, we've got an Apple Health integration getting ready to release, strongman training, specialty training for bench only, deadlift only, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of cool things happening. Yeah, so if you want to find more from me, at Chad Wesley Smith, at Juggernaut Training on Instagram, Juggernaut Training Systems on Facebook, Juggernaut Training Systems YouTube channel. Yeah, so and if you enjoyed this interview, make sure to use code Technique10, and you can save on your subscription to the Juggernaut AI app when you sign up at juggernautai.app.